Yep, Bloodborne. I finally got around to playing it. Finally. This is my first Souls game as well. Always wanted to get into the Souls games, but found them somewhat intimidating with, you know, the usual rage on the internet.
Oh, no, 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 no. Can you frick off with the stones? Literally no more stones. Please! Oh no, I was poisoned. I wasn't paying attention. It doesn't count if you were not paying attention.
So I thought I'd start with Bloodborne, an offshoot of the main game set in its own universe, never remastered or re-released anywhere else other than the PS4. What could go wrong?
Oh dear. What a game. No, 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 no. Damn it. Oh, flip. Okay. Oh my goodness. Can we dodge some stuff? No. Alright then. Okay, okay. Oh, what do we call them? Alright. Fair enough. Come on, one more, two more. Did we both die? I think we both died. Oh, he's still going? Get stuffed.
You play as a hunter, though you'll quickly find maybe not a very good one. It's hinted that we may be in some sort of dream, but as Souls games tend to go, the story and the game itself will not hold your hand in any way. And as for the story, I'm not going to give too much away here. I do believe that it is best to experience it for yourself if you haven't already. However, there's hundreds of videos online of people who can explain it way better than what I can. But what I will say for the story is it's wrapped in so many layers of history and lore. You'll be dropped headfirst straight into it. It'll make your head spin trying to work it out, and I like that. It makes the world feel believable, grounded and real, and as you start the game, you feel like you're a tourist here in a world that has been here for millenniums, and will be here for millenniums more after you leave it. This coincides perfectly with the beautiful buildings that tower over you in the city of Yharnam. Narrow streets, dark alleyways and stairways cutting through it like a maze. Just like its lore, it is a labyrinth. But unlike its lore, it's fairly easy to get your bearings once you've been through it a couple of times. Clearly it's been inspired by Gothic architecture and old Victorian England. But to contrast this, the streets are filled with abandoned carriages, coffins and people wielding pitchforks, seemingly out on a witch hunt, perhaps inspired by current day England. The humanoid screams and howling winds that echo throughout the city only add to it all, while quieter moments can still be had with NPCs or with people who have locked themselves inside, only speaking to you through the door.
Wretched outsider, trying to fool me to open this door. Heavens, the depths of depravity.
Progressing through Yharnam and the rest of the areas is slow and not one to be taken lightly. In each area you must pretty much learn all the enemy movesets. Some will be easy enough, while others can take you down with some surprises. And if you're not quick on your feet, you will be quickly cut down. And we're not even talking about the bosses yet, but before that, you'll have a wide range of weapons to choose from that are all pretty unique. I stuck with the Sword Cleaver and the Blunderbuss for the beginning of the game, solely because it was on the cover, but I switched to the Rifle Spear as soon as I got it, and used that the rest of the game. I know everybody says that it's the worst weapon you can use, but I think they're wrong. This is a good weapon and I enjoyed it. Not that I use the shooting side of it too much, but as a weapon with a bit of reach, you could close the gap between your enemies without getting close to them. And that was nice. This is something I do in real life too. Keep people at a distance so I can't get hurt. But anyways, there's a better way to hurt people. If timed correctly, you can stun your opponent, leaving them open for a visceral attack. This does a ton of damage, and if you can master it, you'll have very little problems going forward, but it's easier said than done. There's also an option for a back attack, which does more or less the same thing, either sneaking up or getting around to the back of an enemy and landing the charged heavy attack. You can stagger them and follow them up with a visceral.
For men with average risk, checks are generally recommended starting around age 50. However,
you can also use these visceral attacks against the bosses, and I recommend you do to get down those big health bars. However, you won't be blessed with the luxury of sneaking up behind them. Bosses are always aware that you're there as soon as you enter the arena. But it can be done, and I did use it a few times. I don't have any footage of it though, so maybe it didn't happen. One unique thing to Bloodborne and not the other Souls games is when an enemy hits you, you have a small amount of time to hit the enemy back to restore some health. I think this is a perfect mechanic to have in a game like this where enemies are already tough as nails and hitting you very hard. Most of the time you want to sit back and plan out your attacks and learn their tactics. However, the game rewards you for being aggressive. It's absolutely perfect. Anyway, alongside dying, that is going to be a majority of the gameplay. There's a bunch of items you can find and use, such as paper, which will buff your weapons with an element for a while, throwing knives, molotovs, and even throwing rocks. But that's basically it without delving too deep into everything. Now, I do want to talk about the bosses, but before we get there, let's jump over to the hub for a minute. Whoops, not that one. The Hunter's Dream, a house in the sky far away from your enemies, a little piece of tranquility for you. Here you'll level up, fortify your weapons, store items and stock up on more. Doesn't sound like much, but I really like this area. And I don't think any other Souls game has this, something that's separate with no enemies, where you can just let your guard down and catch your breath for a while. There's not much to do here other than talk to the doll.
Welcome home, good hunter.
Or enjoy the scenery, but I like this area and I wanted to mention it. I could see myself, after my hunting days, retiring here, leaving all my problems far below me. But before that happens, we gotta beat the biggest problems, the bosses. Probably the main event for anyone playing this game. There are 22 bosses through the main game, which some of them you can skip. However, did you really finish Bloodborne if you skip them? And then there's going to be a few that you wish you could skip. There was about 2 or 3 that I got through on the first try, and others I got stuck on for ages. Somehow I missed the cleric beast at the start and went straight on to Father Gascan. It really made me consider my life and whether I really wanted to play this game at all. Of course, he wouldn't be the worst, and I believe in the main game it was Rom who was the worst for me. I got stuck on this boy for 6 hours, and at one point I couldn't even summon any more NPCs to help me. But with perseverance, determination, and a few tears, we did get through it in the end. Like all things in life, you just gotta keep going and something will eventually give.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
You can of course do multiplayer, have a friend join you, but you gotta pay for that. And I didn't want to pay Sony for that, particularly because they can't remaster this stinking game. While all the boss fights were tough, they were an absolute treat and I did enjoy every single one of them, no matter how hard they were. They all felt very unique and none of them felt like a carbon copy of their predecessor. They all had their own quirks and movesets that you would have to spend some time dying and learning them. It's hard to say whether I had a favourite in the main game, but I do have favourites in the DLC, which we'll get to. Some of the more notable ones, of course, one would be Father Gascoigne. I rethought my life wondering if all the bosses were going to be this tough, but later realised this is one of the easier ones. Amelia was really wicked, and this is sort of my idea of what Dark Souls / Bloodborne boss types should be like. 3 of the 7 ring wraiths from Lord of the Rings showed up. That was nice. Rom, while I suffered against him, he was fun. I did enjoy it. He was one of the only bosses to have like 30 minions around him, so yeah. That was quite cool. I gotta make a quick mention to the Reborn one. Definitely the best entrance in my opinion out of all the bosses. And of course, how could I not mention Nikolash? This one's more of not a boss fight than it is a game of chasey. You will eventually pin him down, but my goodness, it takes a while.
No one can catch us.
The last 3 bosses I found a bit of a cakewalk, particularly the wet nurse, and I guess that's what a wet nurse looks like if you're wondering. Bloodborne has unexpectedly hooked me and I didn't think that it would. I thought it would just be something that I would push through and be one of those games that I said, yes, I've actually finished it, but I do want to play it again. And with this game finished, I did the only logical thing, which was buy the DLC. Upon getting into the DLC, I realised Bloodborne wasn't actually a hard game at all. Bloodborne was in easy mode. DLC was hard mode. When I finished the main game, I had 160 deaths. We finished the DLC on 405, so that gives you a quick summary of how I found the DLC. But let's get into it. Upon entering the DLC, you'll see the city of Yharnam has been turned upside down, no longer full of restless villagers, but other hunters, and they are not to be messed about with. Other monsters litter the streets too, somehow more horrific than the ones we've seen before. Speaking of horrific, first boss fight is none other than Ludwig, half horse, half human man. This really sets you up for what you can expect from the DLC. Fighting him in an old church, on a lake of blood, surrounded by corpses of other fallen hunters, what more could you ask for? Before getting into the other bosses though, let's talk about the new weapons, because there is a whole lot of them. First up, the Whirler Jigsaw. How could I not talk about this? Literally a stick with a buzzsaw on the end of it. And we have the amygdala arm. Yep, remember that amygdala? Now we can use his arm to do out some damage. The Cos Parasite, you gotta have a special headwear to use this one, but it's pretty cool. And one of the range weapons is literally a Gatling gun. Honestly, I couldn't be more happier, and yes, I am skipping over a lot of them because there is a lot. Of course, new DLC means new areas, and I thought these were a lot more interesting than the main game. My favourite, of course, being the dark claustrophobic maze that is the research hall, filled with patients roaming the halls, seemingly taken over by something, in constant pain. What another perfect addition to the world of Bloodborne. Upon escaping the research halls, you'll find the living failures, and I thought this was really nice of the Bloodborne devs to add my Twitch chat to the game. Anyway, moving on, we have 5 new bosses for this DLC, 5 new main events that we must slay. We've already talked about Ludwig and my Twitch chat. Lawrence I made way harder than it needed to be, but a good boss. And of course, I'd have to talk about my new favourite of all of them, my unofficial waifu, Maria. What an absolute joy she was to fight. I loved every moment of it. All 3 phases were a pure enjoyment. In my opinion, she is one of the best bosses, not only in Bloodborne, but I have ever fought in any game. But with the best, we have to come to the worst. The screaming newborn whose parents left him behind, that of course being the orphan of Cos. Nothing could have prepared me for this, and just like jumping into the main game to the DLC, I realized all the bosses have been easy up until this point. Cos was the ultimate hard mode. I started the Orphan of Cos on 259 deaths. We finished on 347. We died 88 times. We were here for 3 streams, totaling about 6 or 7 hours.
No one wants to be my friend. They think I am unstable. I feel so alone I could cry, but I don't. I never do. Because what would be the point?
Yeah, we took some breaks to open Pokemon packs to keep my sanity, but here's my live reaction of finally beating him.
Oh, we did it. Oh. Oh, man. Oh.
Anyways, wrapping up here, I guess that is Bloodborne. This has been my experience and review of Bloodborne. You know, I went into it thinking that this was going to be tough as nails to finish, which it was, but the story, the lore, the combat, the music, I didn't even touch on the music, but I've been listening to the soundtracks outside of the game, which I never do with anything else. The setting, the enemies, I love all of it. Excluding Orphan, I even love the boss fights. It's not often anymore that I find a game that is challenging and that is difficult, that doesn't hold your hand, that doesn't explain the story, yet I found myself absolutely consumed by this, and I don't go many days without actually thinking about Bloodborne again. So now I guess you could say I've officially joined the party waiting for a remaster or a Bloodborne 2. There's not many games that I would say are near perfect, but this is one of them, and a lot less games that I would say are a masterpiece. But again, this is one of them. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my look and review of Bloodborne. If you have, please leave me a like down below. Comment your experience with Bloodborne. Is this a game that needs a remaster, do you think? And if you've really enjoyed, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I also stream on Twitch most nights of the week, so you can catch me live there. We're playing a whole variety of games over there, but more Souls games are going to be coming. Anyway, I'm River Raven. I'll see you on the next one.